Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sunday evening on the Landhammer stream. Hope you've had a good weekend. There's a little bit left, and I don't know what you'll be using it for, study or whatever the case may be. I'm using it just to kind of vlog here a little bit about where I've been this weekend and what's been going on in my CCIE journey. So good to have you here. We've got Big Abe in the chat. Feel free to chat out or say hello or offer any insights as you may have them. We'll discuss some of these topics here briefly tonight. This is day 287. So what I did is I went back and I like this. We've got a couple of vlogs now where people are like doing 100 days of labbing, 100 days of security. I think that's great. You know, I'm all about numbers and, you know, keeping track of your progress. So I went back and actually renumbered all my vlogs / labs. And right now we're on day 287. So it's been more than that in terms of, you know, how many days I've been working on the CCIE, but this is actually the number of days I've been vlogging about it or, you know, on stream about it. So we're talking about igmp snooping and filtering, but a couple of quick topics first. This wallpaper today is pretty cool. It was tweeted by NASA earlier. I think today it's a shot from the Juno spacecraft of this sort of brown barge sort of, you know, formation here on Jupiter. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, swarming. So I don't know if any of you follow gaming world at all. You may or may not. I do, just from basically a long distance. I really enjoy gaming. I don't have a lot of time for it. But I noticed that this new raid came out in Destiny. I don't know if you're familiar with Destiny at all, how it works. They have these new releases that come out. It's a raid, and it's basically like a very, very complex, difficult challenge / puzzle / engineering, and generally it's a group of 6, and they challenge everyone as soon as they release it to see how long it takes them to solve, to get to the end of the raid and complete it. And it's pretty interesting to watch some of the teamwork mechanics that go on, and some of the it's just a fascinating thing to watch. One, if you like gaming, it's pretty cool to watch, but it's neat to watch in terms of how teams work together, how they communicate, how they're efficient. You know, they can't just scream and yell all the time at each other. They have to actually be very efficient with communications, problem solving. You could take a lot of lessons from that. I know that some, like military agencies and teams, have actually watched gamers play in teams to see their call outs, how they communicate verbally, etc. So one thing that's, if you're involved with scrum teams at all, which I'm on a scrum team now full time, and we have this concept called swarming, where everyone pretty much is involved and attacks the problem. Communication's a challenge. Everyone wants to talk over one another. And it's interesting to watch this dynamic. And they tweeted out like the first successful team. I think it took them either 13 or 14 hours, like attacking it straight. They basically have a contest, you know, who can get it first. And this team of 6 got it and was rewarded by some recognition. But really cool. That kind of leads into some of the books I'm reading about IT. But another thing I came across is a blog post about a wisp, which I had to look that up because I'm familiar with the acronym from Cisco Live, Walk-in Self-Paced Lab. You have WISP Labs, but this is Wireless Internet Service Provider. And I've heard of this before. I just did not put that together with WISP, that acronym in particular. But I've got a link below on sort of a methodology for deploying a WISP. It's pretty cool, though. And I know it's been used a lot in areas where getting connections or running cabling is a challenge. So yeah, there are a lot of wireless internet service providers out there. I actually, as a result of seeing this article, went and looked in my area because I'm not real happy with my ISPs. I only have 2 options. And I want to see, is there a WISP out here? No, there isn't one in my neighborhood, unfortunately. There are some in the Orlando area, but not in my neighborhood. But it occurred to me as it might be a good idea. Every single device that I need to use the internet with in my home is wireless. Has wireless capability. So But really all you need is a wireless router, right? And then you could run wired connections from there. But pretty cool article below about that. And then I updated on GitHub. Put GitHub here. I've been doing some studies about multicast and multicast routing and igmp and layer 2 multicast. And I went back and consolidated on the GitHub site. I had a older multicast address reference page. Well, I've updated that, and now it's more comprehensive. And what it has is I started out with Ethernet address for all these multicast protocols, and some of them, of course, are strictly layer 2. And this has a lot to do with, working with igmp as well and recognizing layer 2 multicast addresses, which are generally 01005E, right? And then the last 6 characters here, the hexadecimal characters, are a transmogrification of what would generally be either an IPv4 or an IPv6 address, and they're modified and condensed down into, the last part of the Ethernet address. But I consolidate all these. So I've got your IPv4 multicasts, I've got your corresponding Ethernet addresses, and then I've got your IPv6 multicast and your corresponding Ethernet addresses there. So this is going to be helpful. I'm going to try to use this a little bit for memorization, but it's out there on the GitHub site. If you're interested in that, under the reference sheets repo. Let me see if GitHub, yeah, there we go. Good stuff there. And then I've been busy I didn't stream yesterday. It got late and I didn't have the energy, but I did work quite a bit yesterday and pretty much all day today. And what I would do is I would set a time box, or what you call, I'd use like the Pomodoro timer method, and I'd do a half hour of reading this book. So I've been reading this book right here. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, The Quantum Age of IT. This was a homework assignment from my boss's boss's boss and to our new Scrum team. And it's really good. And I have to say, a lot of the concepts about, I may do it like a separate review video, but the concepts are really good in our new sort of modern age of cloud and, incremental changes and agile implementations and coding, infrastructure as code. That is all really a reflection of some fundamental shifts in the way enterprises and other organizations do IT. It's becoming so commoditized as it was before. A lot of people were worried about losing their jobs, when things go in the cloud, does that mean, that's going to change the skill sets that are important to a server engineer now or a virtualization engineer? Sure, absolutely. But what this book brings out is pretty good. I would encourage everyone to read it. It wasn't a huge read. Like I said, I finished it not too long ago. I think it's 260 pages. And you could read it in a day, really. But it was good because it talked about sort of in this commoditization of IT and where people now, inside of a business units have so many different places they can get IT now. So our skill sets, our business skill sets need to really ramp up. And our ability to, work and provide value to business units is so, so important. And that means as an engineer, as a developer, that you have to be able to demonstrate that, Anyway, that's just really brief. Really good book. Highly recommend it. Again, I know a lot of us are involved. I got 41 days till a CCIE written exam, and I'm taking time out to read another book. But, sometimes you got to do it, and it's good not to just be too, this book talks about our technical skills, and our technical skills has got us to where we are today. But technical skills in and of themselves are not necessarily what is going to get you to the IT person who is providing a lot of value to your customers in the years to come. So not that those technical skills are going away, but they really need to be augmented by other skills that are addressing bringing the most value you can to these products to the customers of IT. So it was really good. Another book, my wife and I went on a run yesterday, 4-mile run, and I listened to it. There's an audio book I'm listening to, and I have links to these below. It's called Crushing It. And if you're a Gary Vaynerchuk fan like I am, like I drank the Kool-Aid, like I'm all into it, man. He's so motivational. I generally, each day, the start of my day, whether getting ready to work or whatever, I'll actually listen to a video by Gary Vaynerchuk. Like he has, it's an entrepreneurial type book, but is really good. Very motivational. How great entrepreneurs build their business and influence, and how you can too. So if nothing more than influencing, it's awesome. So I have this on audiobook, and I was listening to it during the run, got a number of chapters done. So I'm really motivated with that. I highly recommend those. One thing that came out of that, and also some other videos that Gary has been talking about, is the importance of LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn for the longest time has seemed to sort of, I don't know, it's had its ups and downs as a social network, as a professional network. He and others are actually seeing its importance go a little more on the rise as they're sort of changing their model. I see that as well, and I need to go in, and I realized today, I'm putting this on my to-do list. I'm going to go back to LinkedIn. I generally keep it up to date, but there's some new things in my job that I want to add on there, and I want to mix in some things I've done in terms of social media and the networking community. I don't share enough on there, so I'm going to try to share more content on LinkedIn and update my profile to kind of reflect not just what I'm doing at my current company in my 9-to-5, but what I'm doing, my hustle outside my 9-to-5 to help build a community and what I'm learning in that regards. So I'm going to be doing that and sharing that journey with you all as well. CCIE stuff. So very briefly, networklessons.com. I got through quite a few little modules. So I got all the way through. I'm done with igmp for the most part. Now I'm on multicast boundary filtering and igmp proxy. I'm actually working on that. I was working on that right before the stream. So I've got a lab loaded and working on that. As you can see here, router 3. Actually, I'm showing you router 2. I'm working on the multicast boundary section where you can apply. There's a number of ways to do this, where you can apply an access list on router 2, for example. Let's see, access list. I think I already built. No, I haven't built it yet. All right. I was just about at that point. But yeah, multicast, layer 2, IGMP is snooping on switches without a router. I finished that. And there was some good discussion on Discord about that. Especially there seems to be a problem if you're using, I think it's IOL image and LDP. It can cause the multicast snooping on the switch image, can cause some weird things to happen with LDP. So just be aware of that. It's not the case with iOS VL2, the viral image. That is just working just fine. Yep, IOL, Big Abe confirms. So good discussion on that. There's some good, some things I learned in these networklessons.com is some good sort of validation. You can do some great validation commands. If you suspect that IGMP snooping, which is generally enabled by default on a switch, and for good reason, you want it to be on your switch because you don't want multicast traffic to end up being just broadcast to every port. It can overwhelm, especially multiple switches together. It can tend to overwhelm and be very inefficient. So you want IGMP snooping, intelligent handling of multicast traffic at layer 2 to be happening. But there's some really good validation commands you can use to check and make sure that igmp snooping is recognizing what multicast traffic is going on, what the routers are doing. So if nothing else, those are good to use and can be helpful if you suspect there's a problem with, because think about it, LDP, pretty much any of your routing protocols are going to rely on multicast. You know, you've got your hellos, you've got your neighbor discovery, neighbor configuration, multicast, you know, and a lot of people say, well, I'm new to multicast. I've never really done much with multicast. That may very well be true. Doesn't mean you haven't used it. Spanning tree uses multicast at layer 2, right? So, yeah, that's one thing I've really learned going through all these L2, L3, in particular L2, multicast section of networklessons.com is how important it is. And what a lot may be going on that you haven't even realized up until when you study it in more depth. So, like igmp snooping, right? But anyway, that is going to conclude kind of the main section of the vlog, what's been going on. I will cover these trivia questions. So this one is, I don't know if you remembered it, but on Friday we talked about, or Thursday, what is the best BGP best path selection criteria in order? So are you able to think of it? Well, most of us use a sort of a, I don't know, memory trick to try to remember an acronym or whatever you may call it. I have that too. So WLLAOMNI is how I say Walla Omni. There are a lot of other of these, right? But so what that is actually that is, now this is where I get it wrong sometimes, lowest or highest. This is highest weight. So, of course, weight is something that is generally locally significant only. It's a proprietary Cisco. But let's take these other WLLAOMN. Okay, so then we have highest local preference. I may be getting these wrong. I'm going to double check them here in a minute on our written drills. We go and open this up here. Locally originated. Shortest AS path. Origin. Code. Lowest is the best. All right. And origin is it from redistribution? Right? Is it from BGP? So let's see. Then we have, and I was supposed to do drill sheet this weekend and I did not. But this is going to be metric. Neighbor, BGP, neighbor type, really. eBGP over iBGP. Let's see, IGP metric. Actually, this is IGP metric, isn't it? I think this is med, yeah. And then there are actually two more. Oldest eBGP route, lowest router ID. See, WLLAOMNI, highest weight, local preference, locally originated, shortest AS path, origin code, med, neighbor, eBGP or iBGP, IGP metric, oldest okay, I think that's right. Now let me double check the answers in the drill sheet. Highest weight, highest local preference, locally originated, shortest, lowest origin. Yep. Oh, I didn't say lowest here. Oops. Neighbor eBGP over iBGP. Lowest IGP, and I should have put lowest here. That's implied, but lowest is the best. But anyway, oldest eBGP path and lowest BGP router ID. So that would be a really extreme circumstance where it comes down to this. But that, my friends, is the answer to last week's, the Thursday night's trivia question. So next trivia question. I actually didn't write this out, but let me grab one real quick from the drill sheet. Okay. What is the NAT order of operations inside to outside? So see if you can think of those in your head. If not, we'll cover them tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the 7 o'clock stream. So this is really cool. Meat Chunks, this one is actually I was looking for a calculator where you can do, because as we know with Multicast, because of how this is structured, and this is really weird when I first learned about this, but you know, if you do, for example, 224001, because there are not enough bits to account for the full, because 01005E is multicast, that's the OUI, Organizational Unique Identifier, right? You can't use those bits to translate the IPv4 multicast address to an Ethernet multicast address. You only have the last 6, and that's not enough bits to convert all the bits you have, right? So as you know, one Ethernet multicast MAC address maps to multiple IPv4 multicast IP addresses. And these are all of them, right? Which is a very strange concept, but it works. Since it's multicast, it works. It's sometimes inefficient, but it does work. But this is a cool site if you want to figure those out really quick. And then Wisp design, this is the article I was talking about. Wisp on Wikipedia. It's actually a good read. It's not long, but it's a good read. And then the 2 books I mentioned on Amazon. So really good stuff, folks. It's been a very productive weekend for me. And I have some changes that are coming up in terms of my date of 41 days into the written exam, just because I have some family stuff coming up in October, like the first week in October. So that's going to that's probably going to push back. That's going to impact my study, and it may push back the date a week or two. We'll see. But anyway, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate everyone being in the stream. Hope you've had a good weekend this weekend, and wish you the best. And we'll take it back up again in the grind here again tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Sending you good bits, everybody. Keep grinding on your task, on your labs, on your books, on your study, on your lessons, whatever it is you're doing to get that cert. Keep at it, folks. And thanks again for tuning in. We shall see you back here soon, tomorrow night, on a Land Tamers stream.